Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for The Witcher, The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. Now, The Witcher 3, now, I'm sorry if I butchered that name. The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games. I saw the TV show, and I wanted to start reading the books. And I had issues with this. Now, not really big issues. I think it was mainly more down to translation and how certain kind of flow and pacing goes on, with how certain sentence structures and everything kind of went on. Not really with the execution of what was kind of going on. I kind of have more of issues with the second book that I'm reading through right now, more than this one. Because there it's like certain kind of details. I'm like, why am I even learning about this? Whereas we sometimes get like kind of info dumpy stuff, which I don't know if that's how it's written or how it's translated, because those are two very different kind of things. So mainly it was more like, this is the first kind of like, not the first big translation one, because I have read like the Iliad and the Odyssey, but this one was definitely like one of the big ones that is like, okay, translation's kind of a little bit funky, how things are kind of working out, how kind of sentences kind of flow, more than anything really structurally kind of going on. Now granted, the structure of this, because the first one we jump around, like the first season of the show, which this has basis on, jumps around a lot, and the thing is, this jumps around a lot as well. It's a collection of short stories that are mashed together to kind of give us an idea of who Geralt is and what being a Witcher is. And the thing is, I kind of more think that it works out better in an adaptation of a video game, though granted it could work out in an adaptation of the show if you work it out well enough. And I don't know exactly what the kind of issues were on the show, because them going the kind of route that they did with jumping all over the place timeline-wise kind of was fucked up, even though that it kind of happens here, but there's a better framing device where Geralt is pretty much recovering at this temple place from almost getting killed by a Striga that he kind of deals with, and then kind of going back and forth between all these different kind of things, introducing us to Dandelion, Yennefer, the whole Last Wish and everything. It kind of works out like the same kind of stuff from the show, but in a different kind of manner. Me trying to find like Geralt's voice, like switching back and forth between the game and like Henry Cavill, was kind of interesting, but we get Geralt's kind of methodical kind of way of how he's kind of dealing with things, how he kind of talks with certain kind of people, especially like kings, monsters, what he kind of does. We get the lesser, let's see here. So the main kind of things that we get is like The Witcher, which deals with the Striga, and pretty much lifting the curse there and how it kind of works out. A Grain of Truth, dealing with Nivelian, which is vastly different than the show because Ciri is not with him at this point. The Lesser Evil, of course, where he gets his whole title of the Butcher of Blaviken, which, of course, really isn't really suiting for him because he's trying to stop these people from killing the townsfolk, and of course they're like, fuck you. A Question of Price, which introduces us to Sintra, Ciri, that kind of whole bit. The Edge of the World, let's see, that one's the devil one, and the dealing with the elves, and The Last Wish, which dealing with the whole Djinn, and Geralt having the wishes, and the Voice of Reason, where Geralt has to deal with this Tallis dude who's challenged him, but he can't harm him under penalty of death. And of course, a whole kind of trance thing that like one of the priestesses has with what's going on. So the thing is, it works out pretty well in here, seeing what kind of goes on, seeing how Geralt kind of thinks, who he kind of is with as a person, his introduction with how he kind of views Dandelion, how in the Last Wish he's attempting to make sure that he survives and doesn't lose his voice. That's why he goes for Yennefer, and introducing us to their kind of whole relationship. Now granted, I'm also reading the second one, and I've got some problems that are kind of different from here, but in here, it's more kind of focused on who Geralt is and getting us kind of introduced to the world, how he kind of handles monsters, how he handles his business interactions, who he's got kind of relationships with Neneki and Dandelion, and how he operates within this world, that he doesn't think of monsters strictly as monsters, and that there's certain kind of different kind of ways to like handle and deal with things. Now, normally I'd go into more different kind of details on them, but I mean, I've already kind of done that with the show, with certain kind of ones where he tries to figure out what's going on with Velian, which is the Beauty and the Beast kind of one, dealing with the elves and all that. This, mainly, the only kind of problems I had, I think, was mainly down to translation of how words and everything kind of flow and how execution kind of works out. Now, in the original Polish, it could be a vastly different beast. Now, granted, I don't know Polish. And if I knew Polish and knew how to read it and kind of go through with it, there might be different kind of ways of what kind of goes on. Now, it's not really that bad in here. Everything kind of flows pretty well enough, but sometimes you get somebody that's got like a big kind of paragraph to pretty much give you the kind of information you need. And again, I don't know if that's down to how it is done in Polish versus how it's done in the translation. So this is a weird one for me to review. It's not like I could say, oh, it's vastly better than the TV show. I think it's got a better structure than the TV show because it doesn't jump around timeline-wise like it's going out of the fucking style. However, I don't really like that it went into short story routes because it's kind of weird in how it's kind of broken up. The short stories are kind of longer than chapters, but like not full-on books. It kind of affects what you kind of get with certain kind of things. Again, that doesn't really do much of a problem with this one. I'm noticing more problems in like other ones. This one, they at least work out well enough to understand how Geralt handles certain kind of situations and what he's kind of attempting to do as a Witcher. Trying to balance out what's going on, fight the monsters that he needs to fight, which sometimes aren't always what they appear or what they seem. Specifically, like Renfrey, pretty much trying to go after Vilgefortz. Vilgefortz? No, Stregobor. That's who it is. Sorry about that. And him trying to balance that out, like Stregobor was doing abhorrent shit, but that doesn't give her the right to go through this village and pretty much start killing people to lure them out. It's that kind of lesser of evil, how he's trying to pick, how he doesn't want to pick a lesser evil, and he's in this situation and he's got to stop him, and he does his best, but he has to take them out because they're going to hurt people that don't have anything to do with this, and it just gives him the fucked up reputation of the Butcher of Blaviken. And you really kind of feel for him throughout these different kind of situations. It does do a good job of giving you that kind of that good introduction, I will say, of who he is, giving his motivations, how he kind of thinks, his flavor and texture, if that makes sense when you're reading. Now, granted, I don't know if that's a little bit off sometimes, as well because of the translation differences, but I don't know. Would I recommend it? I don't know, because the thing is, my biggest kind of thing is I got introduced to Geralt as the Witcher through The Witcher 2, and then the one that I identify with and like the most, Witcher 3. And that gives you a different kind of feel for Geralt, and you can also choose the kind of Geralt that you want as well. Here, you get just the author giving you their Geralt and you take it or you leave it kind of approach. And it's up to you if you're in with that. I'll kind of see how this goes with the kind of other books. It's definitely more violent, not violent, it's more of a kind of violent kind of thing going on. We'll see how certain kind of action scenes or whatnot, because Geralt pirouettes a lot. Now, granted, I don't know if that's down to the author using it in Polish and the translator having to be as faithful as possible, or if they have, like, there's no other choice, like pirouette, you know what I mean, overuse of certain kind of things. But we'll see as that kind of works on. I definitely think that if you're interested in the Witcher series, you've seen the show, you've played some of the games, I would just start off with this book first and see if any of these kind of issues are a problem for you. And then if they aren't, take it each book at a time. That's a different kind of thing for me to say, especially for a book series, because sometimes you get into one and you're like, okay, cool. And then the ones after, like, I'd be like, okay, I'll get some of these ones. Like the Red Rising series. I lucked out on that. I liked them and I just devoured them. These, it's like, okay, wait and see kind of approach. Wheel of Time series is one. It's like, yeah, you like it, you're kind of going through with it, but then there's certain ones that, like, nothing really fucking happens and you feel like you've gained nothing. I've had that book where it'd be like, this whole book could be cut and nothing of value would be lost. So I would go more with a cautious, check out this one, see if the author's style fits with you, see if the translation fits with you, and kind of go from there. This, I think, is kind of the best example at this point. I'm going to see kind of what goes on with the other book as well before moving on to kind of the other books that I have as well. So this is a weird one. This one's not a complete, like, recommend or not recommend, if that makes sense. And the thing is, you might not like one short story, but you might like another one that showcases, pardon me, Geralt in a better light, or vice versa. Like, you like him in one light, and then the next light you're like, nah, fuck that shit. I'm not really digging this Geralt. So do with that kind of as you will, and see where it goes on. It's definitely more action-focused. Violence definitely abounds, but it does try and explore what kind of goes on with the world and the different kind of political machinations that go on, what goes on with Geralt being a mutant, and what ramifications kind of work with that. Of course, we've got dwarves, elves, monsters, and everything, and how that affects society, and how people interact and converse with each other. So, yeah, we'll kind of see what kind of goes on with this. So those are my opinions on the book. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.